Peter had not an opportunity, but was chosen by his father and one of his, drunken stupors or fairly moderate stupor. When he told my dad at the ripe old age of around 18 or so, probably less, 15 years old, that he had bought a farm up in the New Paltz Highland area, bought 300 acres of farmland. Told my father he was going to be a farmer. My father had no idea, coming from New York, what farming was all about. In those days, they took the Hudson River Day Line, which was invented as a steamship back in 1807, and carried on its tradition to a few years back, and I don't even know, I haven't been back in New York in a while, but they traveled to Poughkeepsie, New York from Manhattan, and I guess at that time it was either wood burning or coal. The trip took probably 3 hours or so. Along the way, if anybody's familiar with the Hudson Valley or the Hudson River, there are many mansions. Prior to going, Peter had nothing but work clothes. That's all he knew. Coveralls, knickers, just common, ordinary work clothes. And his father took him to a famous haberdasher in the area and had him fitted for a suit. They were a knicker type of suit where pants came up to the mid-calf, foot high socks, high shoes, a jacket that was belted. And that was Pete's first time that he ever wore anything like that. He was totally mesmerized. Taylor was making a suit for him. That suit probably back then cost $30, $40. Today it would be $1,500, $2,000 or more. Today's times. Pete went on the Hudson River Day Line with his father. Keep in mind, Peter was a very quiet boy. Really didn't speak unless spoken to. And there were a lot of bourgeois, fairly wealthy people that made the excursion from Manhattan to Poughkeepsie. And they had the money, and Peter, of course, looked the part because of, I guess, the clothing he had worn. And there were a couple of young kids that were on the boat at that time, children of the rich. And they spoke with Pete. And Pete asked questions about those large buildings, such as the Vanderbilt Estate, such as the Roosevelt Estate. You name it, they were loaded. This was back in a period that they built it during the Industrial Revolution, The Great Change, a book I had read by Frederick Laws Allen, Ford Motor Company, Thomas Edison, Harvey Firestone Rubber. They were friends. They had a summer home in Cape Coral. They had places up on the Hudson River, and Pete asked questions to some of the younger guys that were schooled, proper schooling, private schools that knew of, and Peter was very interested. His eyes lit up when he was told he had never seen anything so magnificent. I had the fortune of going to a lot of these estates, and I think of one that stands out, Vanderbilt. The doorknobs were 22 karat gold. This was pre-tax, before the federal income tax was brought in around 1913, 1914. That money was scot-free. Carnegie, steel magnate, was one of the richest men in the world, worth over $2 billion back then. No taxes. Equate that to today's times, staggering. So Peter enjoyed, not really understanding a lot, but tried to get in as much as he could in questions, and the young men were very, very nice and polite with him and answered his questions, and Pete got a little bit of an education. I guess he kind of fit in because of the suit that his father had bought him, and he looked like he had money. My grandfather always dressed like he was a multi-millionaire and spent like one. But on the family, he spent nothing. That was Peter's excursion on the Hudson River Day Liner back in the early 20th century, going up the Hudson River, viewing the mansions, talking to people that would talk to him, and if not, he'd just sit there, observe. And when they were done in Poughkeepsie, they'd get on the horseless carriage and make their way to New Paltz. Remember, my grandfather used to stay at the Mohonk Mountain House, which was founded many years earlier and is still in existence today on close to 10,000 acres, one of the finest spas in the world. Opened by Mr. Smiley, and it's generational, I think, 5th or 6th generation of Smileys. And they've kept the tradition. It overlooks the Shigawonk Mountains. It's a name for an Indian. Up in New Paltz, settled by the Huguenots. All new to Peter. Everything he saw was for the first time. So his eyes were wide open, and he was, I guess, absorbing the best he could. This and later videos, I will show you what he was asked to do and how he did it. No questions asked. Again, I thank you for taking the time and listening, and I hope you enjoy the videos as much as I enjoyed making them. And I hope from them you get some sort of education that will help you in your life, or if not, add to it. It's a beautiful story, sad, but beautiful, real, honest, simplistic. Some of the things we just don't do today. Again, if you enjoyed, subscribe. I thank you very much for taking the time to listen.